So you may ask the question, what's with the name Shadetree? Well, I think that's a valid question. And so let's talk about that for a second. It's probably the year 2001, and I'm rolling around in my life being a school teacher, not knowing what I want to do when I grow up. When my wife and I go through a small group at church called the Purpose Driven Life. And at that time, it's really making a person ask the question, what on earth are you here for? I knew there was more in me. I knew there was a call, and the call wasn't clear, but I knew it was for more than just to be a teacher. Through this season, as I read the Bible, the images of agricultural themes really stood out to me. In fact, we have the parable of the sower, where we have the parable of the seeds, where the seeds are thrown on different soils, the parable of the soils. We have John 15, where I'm the vine, you're the branch. Abide in me, remain in me, may my words remain in you. This just washed over me, and it really made a lot of sense, to be honest. I was able to picture that, and I think what Jesus was after in those times, not like I would know what Jesus is after, but he was trying to relate to the people of the day that were largely agricultural. But the principles apply today, they're truth. But Psalm 1, I kept coming back to Psalm 1. And Psalm 1, if I may read that to you, it says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers." I think of the seat of mockers being your political diatribes, your online dialogue of mocking anything that would be of God. The seat of a mocker is someone who's mocking the things that would be sacred. So we don't want to sit in those seats, which we got to be careful to not be filling our mind full of the garbage of the world. And the Bible goes on to say, but his or her delight is in the law of the Lord. Well, the law of the Lord, the Bible wasn't written in that day, but the Torah was, which was the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament. And in those days, you memorized the whole deal. So this would be something that would be running through your heart and your mind. And in those days, the folks would mumble under their breath. They would meditate. It would be something they would think on all the time. You delight, like you delight in an ice cream cone. No, it's more that you delight, you love, you cherish, you meditate on. It's in the law of the Lord. And on his law, he meditates day and night, renewing the mind, thinking on his word. Here's the kicker. He is like a tree planted by streams of water. Hello, shade tree, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. So let's back up. When you meditate on the truth of God, his word, namely the Bible, and the things of God, that's where faith comes. You have your relationship with Jesus. What this is saying is you become like a tree with roots, a trunk, branches, leaves, and fruit. And the picture struck me spiritually, what that could look like generationally with a large, we live in Florida, the large, big, sprawling oak tree with the moss and the kids playing underneath, representing generational growth, prosperity. So what this is speaking about is whose leaf does not wither, whatever he does prospers. So this is not cash and prizes. Prospers means that the tree's not going to wither away in drought. And the tree's going to stay green, the leaf's going to stay green, there's going to be life and production in that fruit and providing shade for generations to come. It's a picture of God's plan. The trees in the garden, the tree in the Garden of Eden, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So this tree imagery struck me. And what I was experiencing as a elementary school teacher, but someone who really was wrestling with Jesus through learning how to live out this life, is that there has to be more. There's got to be more than what I was seeing in everyday life. I was encountering children in poverty. And I mean locally, highly impoverished places where my students would come in and I was teaching them, and I was burdened by the lives that these kids lived because they didn't have what they needed. And I believe the picture of the shade tree is for all people. And so God has burdened me. I went to school, got my training and degree, and began doing Christian counseling in hopes to invest in people, to encourage, equip, and empower people to flourish like the shade tree. Hello, that's the picture of this Psalm 1 image, that flourishing is possible, that you can have a life where you are rooted, grown, and yes, we have all different kinds of stages of that, but envision, what must it look like? What could it be like if you 100 years from now we saw your kids and their kids flourishing because you were fully alive in Christ, you flourished like the shade tree. So bringing this under counseling, when I started my own practice in 2021, I was looking for a name, and the name Shade Tree came to me all the way back in 2001. So 20 years later, sports fans, that's how long it took for God to bake me in the oven to get ready to do this work. And when it came time to do it, the name Shade Tree was natural. It was supernatural. And so that's the name we chose for the practice. And the tagline, to encourage, equip, and empower you to flourish like the shade tree, comes straight out of Psalm 1:3. And so everything we do here, we have mental health, yeah. We talk about psychological principles, yeah, but we are really rooted in scriptural basis where we believe that each and every person can flourish, and we believe that each and every person is a unique tree in essence. Some are a palm tree, some are a pine tree, some are an oak tree, some are a maple tree. That speaks to temperament, and we'll get into that in future videos. But man, this is really the essence of everything we do at Shade Tree. It's born out of this. And we believe, future wise, that when families come, a husband or a wife or a young person comes into our office and experiences counseling, we're helping to lovingly listen and guide you to flourish like the shade tree, whatever that means. So that is a little bit of the shade tree story.